We're also going to talk about the new Ayatollah, who apparently is not doing very well, according to Pete Hegseth and military officials in the United States, if he's even doing anything at all. He could be dead. He could be in a coma. We're not real sure. We'll get to that a little bit later on. But we start today with the story that I think you're either talking about or thinking about and don't feel comfortable talking about with somebody else. And I'll just preface this today by saying I'm going to do something I don't normally do. I'm going to be a real adult with a microphone. I'm going to be very, very careful about what I say, because the last thing I want is for somebody to paint me with something of an IST on the end of whatever I am, or PHOBE, phobe. I don't want to be a phobe or an ist today. I'm going to try real hard to do that. But I'm also inside just burning up about watching 2 more jihadist attacks yesterday in the United States from people that identify as naturalized citizens. We'll see. One of them's in question. The other does not seem to be in question. A crazy man originally from Lebanon that we allowed to become an immigrant and become an American clearly did not become an American because he drove a truck into a synagogue in his hatred for Jewish people. Another man, a 36-year-old jihadist, who'd already spent 7 years in our prisons for being, well, an associate with ISIS, helping them get arms, intelligence, all these things in the United States. Also says he's a naturalized American citizen. Spent 7 years in jail. It was supposed to be 20. The judge ruled 11. Then they let him out early. He decides to roll over to Old Dominion University, try to find the ROTC classroom. He does. He walks in and he says, "Is this an ROTC class?" And they go, "Yeah." And great. And he pulls out his gun and he starts shooting. He kills the instructor, who is a great American, and wounds 2 students. If you want to love America a little bit today, we're thinking about our troops in Iran. We know we lost 4 airmen in a terrible mid-air crash. If you want to feel good about the American spirit and the next generation of American heroes, these cadets in the class, college students essentially, ROTC cadets at Old Dominion University, with no guns at all, stormed him. One of them apparently had a pocket knife or some kind of a knife, got some stabs off on him. They just beat him. They killed him with their own hands. They took it into their own hands and killed the jihadist with their bare hands, and he was the only guy in the room with a gun. That's amazing. Okay? That's the only good part of this story. The bad part of this story is these people are coming in, maybe even lawfully. Okay? If they're naturalized American citizens, we've allowed them in. We knew who they are. We allowed them to become citizens. And we can't determine that they're radicals. We don't know enough about their background to know that, oh, okay, they're a radical. And how do you serve your sentence, okay, after coming here from somewhere else? How do you serve your sentence for working with ISIS and get out after 7 years and we just say, oh, okay, go repopulate as part of American society? I'm sorry. Let's pass some new laws. That's a one-way ticket home. You're gone, and you're never coming back in again legally. There's no passport. You can't come here on vacation. You're gone. Go back to whatever ISIS-loving country you came from, and you're out. The headline here is, we have a massive immigration problem. But you know that already. This isn't specific to Joe Biden's 4 years. This is a complete and utter breakdown of our laws on the books. And too many people, judges, people who decide in immigration, people who make decisions on naturalization of citizens, this is clearly what we're learning now under Trump, 1+ year in of his second term, is we have a lot of leftists in charge in a lot of important places in the government that rubber stamp things and say, let's just get them in. We really don't care. I, honest to God, do not understand how you can be convicted of working for ISIS in this country as a naturalized citizen from somewhere else, and you're just released into the American population again. That's astounding to me that we are this stupid. Now, what really has me going, and the reason I'm going to be very careful, is I'm not going to pick on being Muslim. I'm not picking on Islam today. I'm going to try really hard not to do this. But one of the stories the left's been pushing the last couple of weeks has to do with some comments made by Andy Ogles, who's a congressman from Tennessee. And Andy Ogles is the most outspoken person, and he is not wrong when he says this. This is not Islamophobic, This isn't this isn't racism. This is none of this. When you understand why he says what he says, it will make sense. The problem is you won't get most people to believe you when you explain it this way. Ogles posted on X last week, Muslims don't belong in American society. And that's true. The foundation of our country, our Constitution, our laws in the United States do not coincide with most Muslim people and what they believe within their religion. Most of them, there are about 30 different variations in different countries, Muslim countries, of Sharia law. Sharia law is not, in some states, it's not illegal in this country. It's not real law, it's their societal laws and norms, but their societal laws and norms within their religion are against our Constitution, and they're against the laws of the United States. And there are numerous examples of this. You can see it everywhere. Mostly it has to do with women. Sharia law has acts that are obligatory, recommended, permitted, discouraged, and forbidden. And ones that are forbidden in some country, the penalty is death. This is pretty simple. You must wear hijab. Women got to cover their heads and faces, right? That's mandatory. You can get married at 13, but you don't get to decide who you marry. The males, the men in your family make this decision for you. If the guardian approves, you can get married at 5. They can pair you up with a 7-year-old when you're 5 and say they're married, that's done. That's Sharia law. You cannot get divorced in Sharia law. There are travel restrictions on you. The laws are brutal, and you cannot inherit property or money. Folks, you can't live in America under those societal norms. We can sit here all day long and say the Ku Klux Klan is horrible, and they are. We've got all kinds of different factions of people in this country that are problematic. But we're just going to continue to allow this influx of all these people. And I don't care if your argument is, only 0.1% ever do anything wrong or whatever. I don't care. I don't care. When you come here to this country and you want to become an American, you are signing off on the Constitution and the laws of this nation. And when you do that, you do not have the right to pick a husband for a 13-year-old girl. That's not good in the United States. They're not compatible. Andy Ogles is right. Their society is not compatible with the United States of America. We can sit here and say we're open to all. We love all people. We're accepting of that. But these are things that break the law. You can't come here and break the law. And let's be honest, what's really changed in America over the last 3 or 4 decades is almost everyone that comes here and becomes a naturalized citizen or is born here of parents that are immigrants that are not citizens, the overwhelming majority of them have no interest in being Americans. They're here for the money. They're here for the better lifestyle. They're here to be with their family. But what they really love and revere and respect is their homeland and their culture and the people back there. And the staggering amount, the trillions of dollars that have been made in America and shipped back through the U.S. mail or UPS or FedEx back to their home country, to their family members there, is astonishing. And the amount of money that we lose in this country because of that is ridiculous. And we are not a serious people. We have not been a serious people. This is not something Trump can fix in his 3 years left. It can't be fixed, folks. This is generational. This will take decades to change. We have to go decades and decades and decades with real immigration laws that are enforced. Nobody comes in without knowing who they are, and darn sure nobody becomes a citizen without knowing exactly who and what you are and why you're here and how much you want to be an American. Yes, we need to have a test. We need to have a litmus test. The simple solution is no more dual citizenship. That's over. That's the first place to start. If you want to come here and become an American, you are not an American Iranian. You're denouncing Iran, and you're becoming an American, because what immigration is set up for is asylum. Asylum from oppression. Those 6 soccer players from Iran that are in Australia, that's real asylum. They have now sworn off their homeland. They can't go back to Iran. If the regime falls and a new government goes in, maybe someday they'll accept them back, and maybe that's where they want to go live. But for now, it's real asylum. They die if they go home at this point. They're not going back. They may pick the United States. They may pick Australia. And they may say, this is where we're going to set up our lives and we want to become citizens. Whatever country that is, they need to say, fine, no dual citizenship. You're not Australian Iranian or American Iranian. You're not. This is your country. And these are our laws, and this is the way we believe. And if you believe in Sharia law and these other things, these things are illegal. Hello, you can't do these here. This is a new country. We've blown it. We had a couple of jihadists in New York City that made terrible bombs. But most of these people aren't very good at this. But there's reason to believe there's sleeper cells in the United States of people that are really good at this. And we haven't seen their work yet. And it terrifies me. And we better get serious about it. 913-408-7957 is the number to call. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I don't want to be the only one. I don't want to be an ist. I don't want to be a phobe. Okay? I want to be an American. That's all I want to do. 913-408-7957. This is Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio.
Vince Colonnese here, and I'm coming up at 11 after Kevin Kietzman on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
I'll tell you what I'm going to do with all this madness in the world going on. Every moment I get, I can take a moment and savor any amount of time to be an American. I'm going to do it. And part of that we're going to tell you about coming up later when Mark joins us. I think we're both going to be at a Royals game together tomorrow. Yes, in Surprise, Arizona. Let's make that happen.
Woo!
Let's make the Royals great again. So getting a lot of responses, man. Boy, did my phone light up with people texting me over the monologue today. Thank you for the kind words that I'm hearing from everyone. Let's go to the phones. Garrett in Kansas City is up first. Good morning, Garrett. You're on KCMO Talk Radio. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Fine, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, so I just kind of wanted to pop in and say one of my biggest concerns is Sharia law being voted into law. And, yeah, it's unconstitutional. But if you look at a lot of countries in Europe that don't have the same, democratic republic structure that we do, you can see Sharia law being voted in there. And once you get a big enough voting block, especially with low voting turnout here in Kansas City, it does not take much to start having real influence. And if you look at the UK right now with, a lot of those cities and all that are moving.
Okay, so let me clarify what's happening in the United Kingdom, because this is really important. In the United Kingdom, Sharia law is for Muslims only, okay? But it is not actual law of the land. It does not supersede any of the laws of the United Kingdom. It does not override anything. What they've said is we're basically going to allow you, if you're a Muslim, to go ahead and do this. That will never happen in the United States. It will get challenged in a court of law, and the Supreme Court will strike that down in a heartbeat. There's no way that can stand.
Yeah. And my fear is the long game, though, because if we have an infinite influx of people coming here, and Muslims, you can look at studies, they're a very dense voting bloc. They will consistently vote together and for their own folks. And so it is something that makes me nervous.
It makes me nervous in local areas. Thank you for the call, Garrett. Excellent stuff. In local areas or maybe states or like we have sanctuary cities and all these other things, yes, I could see them doing something like the United Kingdom where they say Sharia law is for Muslims only. It's a societal norm. You can do this, whatever, but it will never hold up. The Supreme Court would never allow that to happen. It literally goes against the laws of the land and takes away your rights that the Bill of Rights and the Constitution give you. David is in Kansas City. Hi, David. How are you today?
Good morning. I want to ask you a question. There are 6 countries in Central America. All of those countries, what do you think the number one source of income is for their GNP?
Money from the United States.
Money from the United States. Money that's being cycled here from the United States to those countries that's never returning to America. I work with a lot of Central Americans, and the people from Mexico actually believe that a lot of the success that America has is due to the theft of the land that America took from the Mexicans years ago, either by purchase or by force. And they've literally been in an economic war with America for years. And I think America's citizens aren't aware of that. A lot of these guys are sending 60% of their money home religiously with plans of returning to their homeland to retire.
Right. And let's at least note this. I can respect that. If our system is allowing that to happen, I can respect a man or a woman or whoever that comes here and works hard, plays right, and sends their money home to take care of their family. There's a huge level of respect for that. But we're idiots to allow it.
We are. And in most instances, these people that are working, they're not working legally. They're circumventing all of the laws and the competition.
Yeah, thanks for the call. We've put a lot of laws in place that make a lot of workers legal, that they are, whether they're a citizen or not, even when there's visas expired. It's okay. We do need the labor, whatever. There's some arguments for the labor, but we just have to be smarter with this. And it's not something that's going to happen in the next 3 years. It's taken 40 years to get here. It's going to take 40 to get out, I feel. All right, next up is Jason from Kansas City. Hi, Jason. How are you?
Hey, Kevin. How are you this morning?
Great, buddy.
Good. Hey, and I'm from Kansas City originally, but I'm calling from Phoenix. So hope you guys have a safe trip down here next day or two whenever you guys are coming down.
Thank you.
I don't know if I can say this online, so I'm going to ask you. Kind of first of all, I listened to a podcast this last week from a podcaster, and her guest was someone who talked about basically Islam, and he phrased something very interesting. And I'm old. I believe words have meanings, and as he says about Islam, that you see the things that are happening is not radical Islam. That has been put on there to make you think that those are outliers. If you look at the way the Quran is written, per him, the acts that are happening is pretty much carrying out Islam. But like a lot of things, it's the outliers that a lot of us don't want to accept that is actually the norm.
Yeah.
And
yeah, we got about 10 seconds left. Go ahead.
So anyway, what we're seeing now is not radical Islam per him, and he's but they're carrying out the Quran and what Islam is.
That's a great call. Jason, I can't thank you enough for joining us today. Thank you, sir. He's right. For some, this is the norm. Clearly, because look how many people are doing it and apparently accepting it. All right, the news is next. Then we're back with more Uncanceled on KCMO.
From Overland Park to Parkville, it's Kevin Kietzman, Uncanceled, on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
Great to have you with us on this Friday. We hope you have a fantastic weekend. I know the really cruddy weather is coming in on Sunday. Sorry about that. We're going to be out in Surprise checking out a little spring training the next few days, and maybe, if we're lucky, we'll see Team USA in the World Baseball Classic Championship. That would be pretty cool. So we'll get to that and a couple of other sports stories in a moment. I wanted to take just a moment here. I don't often promote my podcast on the radio show, but I promote the radio show a lot on the podcast. In this past couple of weeks, I had all of my podcast listeners let them know that we were going to be out at Conrad's doing those shows. And I want to just kind of publicly acknowledge and thank all the podcast listeners that came out and supported Conrad's as well and came up and said nice things. And most of them say, well, you know, at 10 o'clock every day I'm doing something else. I can't listen to the show at that point in time, which is kind of where podcasting is pretty cool for a lot of people because it's on demand. You can listen to it. Today's episode I recorded because we're leaving town today, and so the time was not – my schedule was just off. So I did it in advance, and I don't do a lot of interviews on the podcast. Occasionally we do. But I interviewed a young man named Nick Walsh, who is – I think he's about 31, 32 years old, and he's from a tiny town in Kansas called Linden, Kansas. And he was a really good running back in high school. And he was all-state for 2A or whatever Linden is. I'm sorry, I don't know exactly the classification that Linden is in. And he also punted for his team and was the field goal kicker, and he played defense, and that's what you do in places like Linden, Kansas. He walked on at Kansas State, and it was the year that K-State was number one in the country, and Colin Klein was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. And he said something funny to me. He said, yeah, I can't say I knew Colin Klein then because I was this walk-on from Linden, and they kept all of us away from the team. There's 30 players, all new, whatever. They're just not really part of the team. Bill Snyder would just keep them over here, out of the way. Okay. He said, but I've gotten to know him a little bit since then because Nick Walsh is now a songwriter in Nashville. After punting at Kansas State, all Big 12 punter at K-State, he is a songwriter in Nashville and has written a song for Luke Combs that is currently the number one most streamed song of country music in America. It's called Be By You. It has not been released as a single yet, but Luke Combs posted on his Instagram page that it's the only song he's ever recorded that got stuck in his head. And Nick Walsh is the co-writer. He's been writing songs in Nashville now for about 4 years with Warner Brothers Records, and it is an unbelievable interview of the great American dream. If you want to hear it today, go to Kevin Kietzman Has Issues, anywhere you listen to podcasts, or kkhasissues.com is the website. For many people, they're like, I don't know how to do that on my phone, whatever. If you have a computer, a laptop, or an Alexa, hey, Alexa, play Kevin Kietzman Has Issues, latest episode. And you'll hear this amazing interview of a guy who's basically starting out as a songwriter. He doesn't like performing in front of crowds. He can sing as well and play, but he really doesn't like being in front of crowds and stuff, so he's become a songwriter. And Luke Combs has picked up one of his songs, and that's a really, really big deal. This is one of those stories that only happens in America. Tiny town kid is a running back, punts in the Big 12, all Big 12 honors, winds up going to Nashville, doesn't really like performing in front of people, starts writing songs, and now maybe the second biggest artist in country music behind Morgan Wallen is in love with one of his songs. It's a pretty good song, too. Be By You is the name of the song by Luke Combs. So check that out if you want to go check out the podcast today, KK Has Issues. So Dana White, the head of UFC, has announced that at the White House this summer, this America 250 UFC fight that's going to take place is on the south lawn of the White House. If you've been to Washington, D.C., you know how it kind of works. There's some big open spaces, the mall, the Ellipse, all these different places in D.C., where we see these giant rallies and marches and all those things. So when I heard Dana White say we've got 85,000 free tickets to the UFC fight in Washington, D.C., you got to make your plans, I was like, yeah, no, that's not happening on the White House grounds. I've been there. There's no room for that. So I think the actual octagon is going to be on the grounds of the White House on the south lawn, and just outside there, they're going to have it set up on the Ellipse where 85,000 people can watch on giant screen TVs. They're going to have flyovers. There's going to be fireworks. It's going to be a huge celebration. And they're saying, please come do this. If I'm not mistaken, I didn't see the day, but I think it's on Trump's birthday. Trump's birthday is Flag Day, June 14th. I only know that because my birthday is June 15th. So June 14th, these UFC fights are going to be unbelievable. Stay tuned for how to get online and get these if you want to go be part of this. I'll just say this about anybody that would go to the UFC. If you got anything evil in mind and you're wanting to do something bad, that ain't the place to do it. If you thought these ROTC students at Old Dominion were tough because you went in there like some bully at the ROTC with your gun and your little jihad mission, okay, they took you down with their bare hands. All right? Don't come to the UFC fights because you don't want to know what's happening with the 85,000 people out there watching the UFC fights, if that's what the number is. They're going to love America. They're going to be peaceful. There will be no trouble unless you start it, and they will end the trouble. There almost no need for security at this event. Almost none. It's going to be unbelievable. Now, I don't know how many people are going to go. Maybe they won't get 85,000. I'd go if I could be on the White House lawn and actually see the thing, but I think hanging out with 85,000 people on the ellipse, I'm probably a little too old for that. That might be past my time, but pretty cool story and a pretty cool thing they're doing this summer anyway. I saw Mike Thompson did an interview with Fox 4, his old employer, and my old employer. And I can't tell you how much I respect Mike Thompson and for his stances, but he's steadfast the last 3+ years. Said this is a bad deal for Kansas. The Chiefs, no on the Chiefs, no. He's been no, and I referenced this on the show yesterday. It's over. Mike, drop it. I mean, I know you got to run for office again. Is that going to help you that you're anti-Chiefs? I mean, that's how it comes off for a lot of people. It's like, oh, you don't like the Chiefs. It's done now. It's done. You did your best to try to warn people that it's financially a bad deal for the state of Kansas. And guess what? Nobody cared. Nobody cared. Both parties didn't care. I don't know that anybody is going to lose their position this year because they supported the Chiefs moving to Kansas. As I said yesterday, what are we famous for? What's the state of Kansas famous for? I don't know, college basketball? The ball of twine? I mean, I can't think of a monument that just jumps out at me. The Flint Hills are gorgeous, but I don't think people around anywhere know about the Flint Hills. What is it for? Well, they know the Kansas City Chiefs. And I heard him talking earlier today about if the Chiefs won a Super Bowl in Kansas, would the parade be downtown? I think more likely than not it would be, but there's no reason your parade can't be in your glorious new stadium. There's also no reason your parade can't be around the track at Kansas Speedway because you can put a couple 100,000 people around that thing pretty darn easily and just parade them around and around and around and have bands playing and the whole thing. You'd have a way better view than standing on a street corner trying to look over people. I could see the Speedway being an excellent place for a Chiefs parade if they won a Super Bowl. So, yeah, there's a possibility it'll be in Kansas. And who around the country would look at a Chiefs Super Bowl parade around Kansas Speedway and go, well, what a terrible idea. How come that's not downtown? People would say, wow, now that's neat. That's different. Look at all those people in those great seats that you can actually see the parade route. There are other options. I think it would be downtown, but, we don't know. Let's hope they win one in 2031. And we have that problem. We got to figure out where that's going to be. We'll see. But I think that's a great discussion point to see if that comes to fruition. Okay, Dave Matthews is a band that my wife and I, Dave Matthews Band, we love them, and they're coming to Morton Amphitheater this summer. And my wife wants to go. I've seen him multiple times. A lot of the bands now that I've seen multiple times, I'm like, I just don't think so. I've been there, done that. It's a Wednesday night, whatever. I don't know what night of the week he's playing. I'm not saying, and I'm not saying don't go to Dave Matthews Band because he's good, and he really plays hard, and his band's exceptional. I've got nothing bad to say about Dave Matthews until recently, when he has just been totally filled with Trump derangement syndrome. And he has joined Bruce Springsteen and U2 because he had to, doggone it, the boss did it and Bono did it, so I guess I better do my Trump derangement song. So he's got a song called Making It Great Again, where he sings, you can't win, but you can die trying. Meaning you can't win the argument. You can go out and protest, you can't win, but if you do, you're going to die. That's what's implied here. He says, in the song, he sings, you know you can't stay here. Show me your hands, I'll make you disappear. I mean, it's just so bad. Show me your hands? At what point did Renee Good or Alex Preddy show their hands? At what point? Alex Preddy showed a gun, and Renee Good showed an accelerator with her hands on the wheel. No, show me your hands. Don't go back to this Michael Brown crap in St. Louis. That was fake, too. Hands up, don't shoot? No, that's fake. Wasn't happening. It doesn't happen. And if it does, cops get not only just fired, they get convicted. Wrongful death convictions and serve jail time. If you put your hands up to any ICE officer and said, I give up, I'm good. Here's my hands are in there, and they just shot you and killed you, you'd be put away for murder. It's just a complete and utter lie. And then they put it in things like this in songs, and it's just the whole thing just is so ridiculous that they can't understand what the laws are, and we actually are enforcing the laws. Okay, Kansas won last night 78-73. Darren Peterson had 24 points. Almost, free throw line. He missed a whole bunch of shots from the field again, which is a problem. But he gets to the line a lot. 13 out of 16 from the line. They're going to play Houston tonight at 8:30. Iowa State's going to play Arizona. This is it. This is the 4 best teams in the league. Let's go. I thought maybe Texas Tech was. I don't think they are. Well, maybe the tournament plays that out. But this is a good Final Four. They're going to play on a hardwood floor tonight because the LED thing flamed out. We talked about this about an hour ago with Pete. It's slick. It's slippery. We've been talking about it all week long. And the Big 12 is pulling the plug on it. They're going to have a hardwood floor out there tonight. That's a great idea. And that's a great idea going forward. I respect and appreciate trying to move things forward, do something different. I was completely closed-minded to the World Baseball Classic several years ago, but now I love it every 3 years. It's fun to watch. It's competitive. It matters to the players. It matters to the fans. That's the essence of sport to me. So I like it. And let's just make the Big 12 tournament great again. However we can do it, let's just go ahead and find a way to do that. Missouri fell 78-72, and this was – they played competitively, then they fell down 16. They got up 1. I'm like, they got this. They're going to do this. They're going to pull it off. They're going to be Kentucky again, and they didn't. They finished the season losing 3 in a row, and that's problematic. They are on the bubble. Most people believe they're in, but you never know until the selection show, 5 o'clock on Sunday. When we come back, we'll check in with Mark on a couple of those stories, and I think we're both going to be at the Royals game tomorrow in Surprise, Arizona. We will get into that and some other cool things going on next on Uncanceled. This is KCMO Talk Radio.
From Smithville to Shawnee Mission, it's Kevin Kietzman. Uncanceled on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
Wrapping up the work week here at Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio. Thanks again to all of you that came out to the unbelievable 2 days we had at Conrad's in Lee Summit today. What a nice bunch of folks. And I love Lee Summit more and more and more the more time I spend there. My in-laws live there. And it's really, really, really great folks. And appreciate you supporting the radio station and coming out. And we love mom and pop businesses like that. Joe and Julie do such a great job at Conrad's. They're very proud of their place. Mark dined in on all of it, and he chowed down. He does not miss a moment to go big. Mark, you're still a young man. You can take in an awful lot of calories in a day, and it appears you take that opportunity frequently.
I mean, the first day we were there, I had the bones, had that barbecue burger, and then yesterday had the chicken tenders and fries, and it was all so good.
Yeah, the barbecue burger is 3 meals in one.
It is.
I mean, literally. It's a half-pound burger. Then they put pulled pork on top of it, then 2 onion rings and cheese and sauce, and wow, what a deal. Is that one of the bigger things you've eaten recently?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And it was tasty.
It was tasty. I could tell it was tasty. I could tell by the way you were enjoying it. It was very, very tasty. All right, what's tasty tonight is the United States versus Canada. And I was saving the best for last because as soon as I found out the United States was playing Canada, I couldn't resist, Mark, the opportunity to just kick some more sand in their face. And this is it because it's been a rough year. Trump kicked sand in their face. He's got problems with Carney, the prime minister. He's trying to make them a state. He's doing all these things. We've got the economic deal that's in our favor now and not theirs. Then we beat them in women's hockey and win the gold. Then we beat them in men's hockey and win the gold. We have just been punking the Canadians.
We sent Katy Perry there.
Yeah, right. There you go. Will the Canadians feel, I don't know, some sorts of revenge if they could just win this one game tonight, or do Canadians care so little about baseball it doesn't matter?
I think they're going to try hard, but I don't think they're good enough to, even when they're trying their hardest, to beat America in baseball. I see that their team has a few guys that we know from the AL Central. The Naylor brothers are on that team. Allen, one of the pitchers, is from the Guardians, I believe. But, yeah, I don't think they have what it takes.
All right, so what about Joe, hockey fan, living in Toronto, watching tonight on TV, that hockey's his passion? Does he get any sort of payback if his Canadian baseball team beats the United States? In other words, would he feel like, oh, this meant more to them than us? And I don't know that it does, but it does. Look, I just want to pile on Canada right now because it's fun. And I always say this I preface it with this. I've never met a Canadian I don't like.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, I don't meet the French-speaking ones from Montreal, the ones that are deciding all the politics, and the elites in Toronto and stuff. Those people decide the entire nation's politics. So they are what they are. But most Canadians are kind of like us. They're just like
friendly.
Midwesterners,
Yeah. For the sport aspect of it, I do think that they would have the bragging rights because, baseball is our pastime. It would be a big upset, but at the same time, after the first inning, I think they're turning it off.
Okay, this would be close to an equivalent of turning around what we did in hockey to them, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Sort of being equivalent. Well, in Bobby We Trust, you have a play on Bobby Witt tonight. Is this correct?
2 total bases. I finally found it. I'm going for it.
All right, so if Bobby Witt gets 2 total bases or more, you win your bet. Do you have a basketball parlay? We've got the Big 12 semifinals tonight. KU playing Houston in the second game.
You know what? I picked Iowa State and Houston to make the finals. Right now I'm 11-1 in my overall picks for the Big 12 tournament, so I'll probably stay with Iowa State and Houston, although I will be rooting for the opposite. I want Arizona and KU in it.
All right, and then finally this one, Kansas State. Well, I got 2 things. We'll do this one pretty quickly. Kansas State hired a new basketball coach, Casey Alexander. Doesn't matter who he is. Nobody knows who he is. He's from Belmont. Have you received a text thread from any of your KU friends, Mark, about what they think of this hire?
No, not yet.
Not yet? My wife's getting text threads from her KU friends that say, I heart Gene Taylor. Gene Taylor's the athletic director at Kansas State that has screwed up the basketball program so bad, and they allowed him to stay and hire the next coach. Over under of 7. How many coaches turned Gene Taylor down before this guy from Belmont took it?
Belmont's pretty rough. I was going to say under, but I think maybe over at this point.
Over 7 turned it down. I agree with you. And the Players is this weekend. It's a big-time professional golf tournament where they have that island green. It rained yesterday, and after they stopped play, Scotty Scheffler didn't care. He went out and was practicing in the rain. But the real event here is for $11,000 a week, Mark, for the entire week per person, You can sit in the Players Club and eat food like a giant 550-pound tuna that they brought in off the coast of Spain this week.
All right. I'd do it.
We've literally done tuna stories 2 weeks in a row. One in a vending machine that you can buy in a bag, and the other imported from Spain. We're nothing if not open and accepting here at Uncanceled. Have a great weekend, everyone.